I'm Michelle O'Brien, and I'm the Carers and Partnerships Manager in Northumberland Care Trust, and as such I take a lead on carer issues and have done so for the last 10 years. And with me is Stan Cook, who is a carer of his son who has autism, and Stan is also someone that has been involved in developing Carers Northumberland and is in fact chair of Carers Northumberland Board. We were going to give you a longer presentation, but as it's been cut down to 5 minutes, I'm going to talk for a couple of minutes, and then Stan's going to talk about the carer's perspective and carer control for another 2 minutes. Okay, thank you. Northumberland is one of the most sparsely populated areas in the country, and therefore presents particular challenges in supporting carers. To illustrate this, if you look at the map and take your finger down the coast and then along to the bottom of Northumberland, actually in that space there is North Tyneside, Sunderland, Newcastle, Derwentside and Chesterley Street Carers Centre. Now, obviously that's a very urban area, but in fact our challenge was to develop a carers organisation that would be able to cover this very, very rural area. In fact, outside of the southeast corner of Northumberland, there are no hamlets or towns that are bigger than 12,000 population, and in fact many people are incredibly isolated in the College Valley areas and obviously the Kielder Forest areas. In 1997 we took a localised approach to supporting carers and had 2 carers organisations operating, one in the north, one in south east Northumberland, and we're about to adopt a third. We felt that there would be significant problems in this. First of all, they'd be competing with each other for funding, so it wasn't necessarily very efficient. Also, it creates inequality, and we wanted to provide the same type of service to everyone in the county. So we talked to carers, and we're very honest with them about funding, about efficiencies, and really they came to the conclusion, especially in meeting carers from other localities and finding that they really did have similar experiences, they came to the conclusion that the best option would be to merge. So our bid is very much about how we went about that and how we merged the organisations and the problems we found, and also how we developed a service that would appropriately respond to people in these very rural areas. And largely we've done that by making sure that, by first of all not establishing a carer centre, but by establishing from the outset an outreach approach and locating local workers with other voluntary sector organisations. And they provide roving services, roving support groups in smaller villages. When they consult, they go out and hold their consultation in small cafes with people in the smaller villages. And they provide a rolling programme of skills training for carers. That's just an example of how differently they use things. They also rely a great deal on technology in providing one single number for carers, and that helps them to share staff, so it doesn't matter where you are in the county. If you need support from or advice from Carers Northumberland, you might live in the southwest corner, but your call might be taken by someone who's on duty up in Belford. It's also proved a positive vehicle for the delivery of prevention services for carers, and we look forward to more questions about that.
Afternoon. From the carer perspective, I'm actually retired, but not really. I became involved with the formation of Carers Northumberland because I happened to be a carer that had a bit of time available and who was not involved with the two organisations that existed at the time. It was felt that it was important that the chair of the steering group that led to the formation of Carers Northumberland should be somebody who had no axes to grind either way in respect of the two existing organisations. The challenge was to bring the trustee boards of those two organisations together. Each of them was rightfully proud of what they had achieved in their areas, and obviously they felt they had ownership of that. But all the trustees on those respective organisations were carers themselves. The steering group that led to the setting up of Carers Northumberland was itself formed primarily of carers, with only Michelle and 2 or 3 other officers in that group. The trustees of Carers Northumberland now, as it is formed, consist of virtually all carers. There's only 1 or 2 of the 9 trustees that are not carers. And the aim now is to maintain that sort of heavyweight carer involvement in terms of directing and governing the organisation and leading it forward. That's the internal control of Carers Northumberland. We are actively involved also in consulting with carers on an ongoing basis. A number of consultation exercises are ongoing continuously. We never let this one go. We're constantly engaging with the carers that we support, and as far as we can, those that we don't support. It is always an issue engaging with carers anyway, and in an area such as Northumberland, where there's many isolated rural areas, that's even more difficult. But we are working towards that. We also support carers as far as we can at the moment in engagement in their own local communities, to be active members of the communities that they're in, and also to ensure a carer perspective in strategic partnerships and involvement on things like the Learning Disability Partnership Board and things like that. We also facilitate the carers involved with that. If the whole concept of this project is to continue to work, we recognise that it's got to be run by carers, and importantly seen to be run by carers. And we feel that we are achieving that so far, and we obviously intend to continue to do that. Thank you. I also